Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on Crafts with Kat. So today we're going to be making a hammock and I'm really excited about this project. It kind of took me a while to make, but I think you guys will enjoy it. So some of the tools I used to make this were two wooden dowels. One was 1 inch wide and the other was 1/8 of an inch wide. And then I got about 200 feet worth of rope, but I didn't end up using most of it, so you can get less than that. I got 2 packs of different colored fabric, and I was gonna use that to make the hammock, but I ended up using it to make the pillows instead. And then I got 2 metal rings that I used to hold up the sides of the hammock, some nails so that I can make the sides of the hammock, and a carabiner clip to put it all together. The thing that I just put down, I'm not sure what it's called, but it goes in your wall to hold up the hammock. So for this part, I'm just demonstrating what it's going to look like when I put in all the nails where every X is. That metal ring is one of the metal rings that you saw before, and this is me making a design that I can follow when I come to make the sides of the hammock. In order to make the sides of the hammock, the X's are nails, as I said before, and the numbers will come into play a little bit later, but for right now, this is what your setup should look like. From the top to the bottom should be about 30 centimeters or a little bit longer. That length is about the average. That's going to be the sides of your hammock, how long it is. So first I just weave my rope through the metal loop that's on the top, and then I bring it down to the side. I had to hold down my metal ring, so I would suggest attaching it very well. I make a slip knot, which I show you how to do here. So you make a loop and then flip that loop over onto the rope that you have, and then pull a loop out of the fabric and tighten both sides so it looks like a U coming out of a knot. I now use this setup so that I can make the sides of the hammock, which is called a Clew. I got this Clew from another YouTuber. I will link his video in the description box. I have one of the sides of the rope attached to a nail so it doesn't slip or go anywhere. I'm just going to wrap a loop around the first peg and then bring it up to the top, pull a loop out of the back and bring it all the way down, and then straighten it, and then pull a loop around the third peg and then pull a loop out the back, and I just continue this way across the entire board. When I'm done with the rest of the rope, I'm just going to cut off about 30 to 40 centimeters of rope so that I can use those working strands to work through my weave. Now I tighten all of the strands I already made, and I make sure that they actually hook onto the pegs and not become loose, because these are the strands that will stay in place as I work through the whole project. I adjust the rope as much as I can, make sure it's all straight at the top, all laid down on the metal thing, not on top of each other. So now I'm gonna come up with a system so that I can identify which parts of the rope I'm using and which not. I'm going to wrap a piece of green tape around every left side of a loop. So every left strand of each loop has green tape on it, and this will help me to identify which strands I'm going to use and which strands I'm not going to use. It'll make it easier for me to follow along with the pattern as I go on. The nails at the bottom are in a wave kind of loop, for a specific reason, which I'll explain in a little while. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to take out the first strands. Is going to be all green, and we're going to take out all the left sides of the strands. We're going to pull the wooden dowel all the way up to the top, and then straighten where we have to. It's going to look a little odd at first, but it'll fix itself. So then we're going to take our working strands, and then we're going to pull them through from both sides, and this will kind of create the first loop of our weave. So we pull the working strands through, then we pull the wooden dowel out and we straighten it out, and it's just gonna look like another loop around the middle, which is good. We want that. Then we're gonna take our wooden dowel again. This time we're not gonna take the green side, we're gonna take the opposite side. We're gonna take the ones without green tape on it, and we're gonna pull each of those out onto the wooden dowel. So that's going to be the right side of each loops. This back and forth is going to create kind of the weave that we want to see. So we're going to pull strands up like I said before. And then we're going to pull the wooden dowel all the way up. And then my weave kind of got a little messed up on the side, but don't worry, I fixed it. So then we're going to pull the wooden dowel all the way up, and it's going to create kind of the second loop of the weave. And we're trying to make a triangle, so this first part is where we're going to use all our loops, but we don't have to use it the whole time. So now I just tighten the working strands that I've pulled through, and I make sure they're nice and straight so it doesn't look all crowded when we take it off. So now we're not going to take the first one on the side. We're going to start from the second one. Take the second green tape and weave all our strands through, except for the last one too. So the first one and the last one are not being included in this. So the green tapes for the first one and the last one are not going to be included. So now I got my wooden dowel up, and I'm going to weave my working strands through this time. But again, I'm not going to include the first one or the last one. And this is going to be the first time we're going to make that triangle shape. And we're just going to reduce the strands each time to get it down to just 2 on the bottom. Now we're going to take the 2 on the side. We're not going to use those. 2 from each side. So the first 2 and the last 2 we're not going to use. I take off the green tape so I don't get confused. This time we're going to take the non-green tapes, and we're going to weave all the non-green tapes except for the first 2 and the last 2. Then pull our wooden dowel up, straighten it a little bit because it gets a little messy, and then weave our working strands through both sides. At this point, I'm just gonna tighten it a little bit and fix it up so it doesn't look too bad. And then I'm gonna take the green tapes off the third ones so that I don't get confused. Now we're gonna do 3 of them not gonna be going. So green tape, but 3 from each side not gonna be included. And yeah, I just make sure that it's all straight and the loops look even and not messy because we want it to look professional. So I'm just going to pull the rope a little bit so that it looks better, and I'm going to pull my working strands through the weave. At this point, one of my nails came out and I had to fix it, but if you did it right, you shouldn't have to worry about that. It was just... So I pull the wooden dowel through and then work my strands through. And if you guys can see, now it's starting to become more of a pattern. And now we're going to take out the tape for the 4th one, so we're doing 4 of them not included from both sides. We're going to take the 5th ones for the not green tape ones, and we're going to pull the wooden dowel through that. Now we work our strands through, and we should only have 4 loops onto the wooden dowel. We're going to work our strands through, and it's okay if it's getting a little small because we don't have much left. We just want to make sure that it's even. You guys can see the loops on the side, they start to look really good. Now our last part is the green tape for the 2 in the middle. So I'm going to pull my wooden dowel through the 2 green ones in the middle, and then my working strands. And that's the last step for the sides. But now we're just going to take off all our loops from the pegs, and we're going to finish it off on the side. Now I have both my clews are done, and the way we finish it off is by cutting off and melting the strands that we have left that we're not going to use anymore. How we're going to do that is by tying a square knot, and that's just 2 regular knots next to each other, and that can also be called a double knot. So I'm going to tie my double knot and then cut off any material that I have left. Then I'm going to get a lighter and burn off the ends so that they don't fray. And I'm just going to mold it a little bit so that it's more shapely and that all the ends are stuck into one place. And I do that for the other side too. And if you're not an adult, please ask an adult to help you with this part because you can get hurt. At this point, I try to put the parts together, but it doesn't really work all that well. That doesn't matter. What matters is that now we have all our loops that we're going to use to attach to the fabric. Now with our fabric, I have a 47-inch piece of fabric by 40 inches, and I have 2 of those. I just use an old sheet for this. What we want to do is that we're going to sew all the sides of the fabric that are not already sewed. Not so they can't fray, it's more so that they are attached to each other. We're going to do this by a regular running stitch, and I demonstrate how to do that here. So it's just weaving your thread in and out of the fabric, but never going over the top of the fabric. You can watch me do it a few times here. It is a little hard to catch on to at first, but after a while it becomes a little bit easier. If you want, you can of course do an over the top loop, which is a little bit simpler, but for me I went with the running stitch. I folded it a little bit better for the second half because it got a little difficult to manage the last time I did it. So for this part, this is the side that I cut on, and I don't want it to be messy. So what I do is I fold down the fabric once or twice so that we can have an even end to that side of the fabric. We're just going to do the running stitch again all the way across, and luckily for me I had the other 2 sides already sewed. If you don't, go ahead and sew both those sides as well. The length that I folded the rope onto itself was about 1/2 inch. However, that can be adjusted based on how your fabric looks, or if it's frayed way too much, you can do a little bit more than 1/2 inch. For this next part, we are going to make a diagonal cut that's about 7 inches into the fabric on one side, all the way to the corner on the other side. Now our fabric is cut, and we're gonna be left with a 41-inch side. We're gonna split that into 12 parts, and each part is gonna be about 3.5 inches wide. We're gonna make another cut about 3 inches into each of the lines that we just made for us to attach to our loops. Now we have our loops and our cut strands. To put them together, we're just going to sew our fabric around each of the loops. I fold down the side again, and then I do a running stitch back and forth about 3 times. This process may take a while, but it's rewarding in the end, so keep going at it, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be absolute experts at the running stitch by the end of this project. Now I have all the loops from my Clew attached to the straps of the fabric to make one side of the hammock chair. And now we do the other side. This is me sewing the last bit of the fabric around the last loop, and it all comes together to make the biggest part of this whole project, which is the actual hammock. Now we attach the clews to the wooden dowel that we got to hang the chair onto something. We're going to do this by attaching a rope to the metal loop, pulling the strands out like I do here, and then using that rope to attach it to the wooden dowel, and using another piece of rope to attach that wooden dowel to a carabiner clip. I have already done it on one side, so I'm just going to use that side in order to make my pattern again. I'm going to do a regular knot on the rope and then adjust it to the size that it is on the other side. This part takes a little bit of effort, but we want it to be even on both sides. So we're going to do a regular knot and then wrap each side of the rope around the wooden dowel once, and then do a square knot with the left pieces. After we have our square knot, we are going to melt it off like we did with the rope when we finished the glue. Now we get a piece of rope that's about 10 feet long, and we're going to attach it to the carabiner clip and the wooden dowel by first attaching both ends of the rope to the wooden dowel and then looping it around the carabiner clip. I get my carabiner clip, and then I put a loop through the carabiner clip and then down around the dowel and up again into the carabiner clip. So there you have it. Your wooden dowel is all attached to your rope and your clews are attached to your hammock. Last part is to just burn off the ends of the rope that we have left and you're good to go.